Welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host. And how multidimensional are you? What kind of life are you living? Are you talking to spirits all day long? If not, why not? What kind of life is this? Well, let's make it more exciting. And let's talk with somebody who lives a very exciting multidimensional life, as you know, that I enjoy so much. And I'm so excited to have her on the show. Laura Powers, welcome to Energy Stew.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You know, it's wonderful to talk with somebody who I totally get what it's like to be infused in a multidimensional environment. You live a fantasy life for most people. People should find, and they will find out a lot about you because we're doing this, and they'll look you up. We'll have links for that too. And to understand what happens when we're born with gifts. Maybe some of us, like I didn't know I was born with a gift until I was a little older and said, no wonder I'm this way.
So much makes sense now.
How soon did you know you were this way?
Gosh, I would say from a very young age, I knew I was different. I literally felt like an alien growing up. I remember as a kid looking around and just feeling like I am not like everyone else around me. And I had some pretty early experiences, to indicate that I was sensing things that other people weren't. So I remember asking my mom when I'm thinking around 7 years old if she saw things, because I'm very clairvoyant. So I see things both in my mind's eye, but in many cases in the physical plane as well, that other people aren't seeing. And I knew based on her response that she had no idea what I was talking about. And so I grew up with this awareness that I was sensing things that other people weren't. And I actually thought, I'm probably crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. It's probably better not to talk about this. I just didn't want to bring attention to it. And I think I have many past lives. In fact, I know I have many past lives in which I was, burned as a witch or persecuted for psychic abilities and, just being different. And so there was a lot of fear for me about not being like other people. And so I didn't talk about it. I just kept it all to myself. I had a lot of really crazy psychic experiences. I could be what's called a trance channel where, spirits come into my body and, channel through me. I don't do that. I like to have my body for me. But as a result of that, I had spirits trying, they would try to get in my body and kind of take over. It was very intense and, kind of traumatic because I didn't understand. I didn't know how to have boundaries. I didn't know what's going on. And I essentially tried to block it out. But in college, a family friend described a ghost that I had seen but never told anybody about. And so I thought, okay, if, I never told him, if it's a hallucination, if it's just in my head, I don't think he would see it and tell me. And so that confirmed for me that I was sensing things that were there, not just for me, that I was still really scared and didn't have the tools to handle it. So I tried to block it out and ended up many years later in a really bad place in my life because I was essentially blocking all of this information and a part of myself. I was blocking my psychic gifts and abilities, and the energy blocks in my body were happening as a result of that. And I ended up in a really bad place in my life. And then I went to a psychic actually for guidance. And she basically, kind of told me the deal, like, you're really psychic when you block this stuff out. You blocked out what you needed to know. You blocked out your intuition. You blocked out the light. So it's kind of like putting on a blindfold because I didn't want to see ugly things and blocking out all the beauty and the light and everything that I needed to navigate as well. And so then I set about the process of, opening back up and taking classes and learning how to manage what I have instead of just trying to ignore it.
Right. And I'm thinking of our audience and how many people out there have gifts that they've blocked.
Oh, I think almost everyone to some degree or another. I mean, it's essentially what we're taught. We're very much taught to sort of be, blend in, be like the group, and that anything like this is scary or, just something that you don't want to mess with or certainly acknowledge.
Right. And maybe some of the people listening or watching the show are here for a reason.
Of course. It's always so.
Knock on their door.
Yeah. And, I went through this major transformation because when I was blocking things out, I was physically getting unwell as well. So I was at a real crisis point in terms of my health as well. I, had a bunch of medical diagnoses. I was on sleeping pills. I was overweight, 50 pounds heavier than I am now. And, weight varies for different people, but I did not feel good. I didn't feel good in my own body. I was getting sicker and sicker. And so at the same time that I went through this psychic and spiritual awakening, I also went through an incredible health journey. And I am so much healthier than I was before. I used to have recurring allergies all the time, sinus infections. I was constantly on antibiotics, sick, almost always had a cold. That I could tell you all the different things I experienced, but basically I was just constantly sick and I felt it. It didn't feel good. And now I'm very healthy. I almost never get sick, and so I think there's a huge connection between our physical health and our spiritual awareness and health as well.
But what I'm thinking is that nothing ever has held you back in life, maybe about your spiritual nature, but you cover so many areas of the world in your talent. You're a writer, producer, a model, a singer, an entertainer. You do cabaret shows. There's so many things that you're out in the world doing that, and you studied political science and
yeah, in my other life, yeah.
you have a master's in that. So, so you're somebody who really took advantage of being in the world, and now you're taking it to a more multidimensional place.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so. I think it's connected, and I think that when we have soul gifts, they are with us through multiple lifetimes. So I think I've done an experience and done all these various things multiple times in different lifetimes, and so now I feel compelled to do them again. And there's a book that actually really helped me. I feel like to mention. It's called Refuse to Choose, and it's about how there's certain people who really thrive when they allow themselves to express and do a lot of different things. And not everyone is that way. I am one of those people. If I have to focus on just one thing, it's almost like suffocating. Like I literally feel like I'm shriveling or something. And so I have to do a lot of different things and express in different ways in order to feel vibrant, in order to feel alive. So I allow myself to do that.
Right. And you have so many tools. That's the point, is that while you were blocked spiritually,
yeah,
you actually took advantage of so many opportunities, three-dimensional opportunities on this planet, and now you have those gifts from all that you can use in so many new ways, because you work, for instance, you're channeling in famous people who have died and bringing in advice from them, and all kinds of wonderful things that have to do with your education, with your being in the show business world.
Yeah, although I have to say, I think a lot of those relationships were established, on a soul level before. And so, it's a funny thing. I remember when some of these spirits first started coming through, and I felt like, at that point I wasn't very well known as a psychic. I'm more well known now. But I thought that's so interesting that all these like famous spirits are coming through. And then I later realized that it was like, no, we actually already knew each other on the soul plane. And so it was like natural for them to reach out to me, especially in the role that I was taking on in this lifetime. And I'm getting to share that because I think there's a lot of people where you don't know who you're connected with on a soul level automatically. And you may be shocked and surprised by the sort of celebrity spirits or, those who are known that you actually do know on a deep soul level.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I'm thinking of somebody like Robin Williams, who used to be in a running group that I used to run with.
Oh, yeah.
And yet we never connected. So I don't know what that has to do with. Maybe we have some connection.
Absolutely. No, I'm getting, you're definitely part of the same like soul group and incarnated. Absolutely.
Well, I want to talk with you about how many different things you do. For instance, you've written a number of books, The Diary of a Ghost Whisperer.
Yes.
Diary of a Psychic, Angels. You you have angels who speak with you and
Hmm.
talk with you all the time. And then you have a great book, it looks like so much fun, Supernatural Survival Guide.
Yes, that's my sort of Halloweeny book, and I actually do. Unlike a lot of psychics, because I work quite a bit with the sort of paranormal, and there were all these different beings that I was encountering, and there weren't a lot of resources on, what do you do if you encounter a jinn or an entity or a fairy, and so I wrote this book as a sort of guidelines to help people understand and connect with these different types of beings that share our world.
Yeah, and it's amazing that our lives now are opening up more to this kind of phenomena.
Oh, so much.
I started it was about 25 years ago that I really started focusing on being who I am as an intuitive, and I was fairly rare at that point. It was now there's so many of us. Everybody is kind of becoming more and more multidimensional, and that's why I find it important to talk with you, because you really are a guide to so many people about understanding this nature. People can appreciate you on so many different levels. And I think, contrasting to me, they look at me and go, "Oh my gosh, you're strange." And
Well,
yeah,
yeah. Well, we were talking a little bit about this before we started the interview, but I was given the information years ago that the form that I'm in right now, meaning like, this body, how I appear, my gifts and abilities, was very much chosen for a reason. That this is basically what I needed for this role. In a way, this is like a lifetime costume that I'm wearing, and many people, for example, connect with me initially because of how I look. The model aspect, or I'm out in public and a guy will come up and hit on me, and then we end up talking about angels or something. And so it's very fascinating that I was chosen. This form was chosen for this reason, to help make some of this stuff accessible to people and connect with me. Maybe initially they're connecting with me for something else, but then what comes in is different.
well, one thing is you're talking about how femininely attractive you are, and yet earlier we were talking about your masculinity.
Yeah, I've had more male lifetimes than female lifetimes, so that masculine energy is actually very familiar to me. And in fact, one of my big lessons that I'm working on in this lifetime and trying is to be more actually in the feminine energy, because the masculine energy, that sort of go, create, push, kind of aggressive, assertive energy, is very familiar to me. That more soft, receiving, intuitive, manifesting energy is something that on a soul level I've had to work on more.
Yeah, and it's interesting how we identify people who, for instance, work with angels
Yeah.
as being softer, kind of very,
Oh,
you know,
a lot of people don't really get angels that well. Well, so just to that point, there's certainly an element of angels to that, but from my perspective, angels are like spiritual warriors. I mean, there's different kinds of angels, so it's important to know that. But a lot of the archangels, look at Michael. He's a fighter. He's a warrior. He's the protector. So it's interesting to me that people do tend to associate that more kind of soft, kind of uh, very gentle energy with angels. And there are angels that are that way, but a lot of angels are actually like, they are powerhouses. They are intense, and they're protectors, and they are warriors. And that's the kind of, energy that I tend to connect with more, I think, with angels.
and I was looking for an angel who would be like that.
Jophiel would be very soft. She's very soft,
Well,
feminine.
I looked at, in my past life, I was in India. I was a
Okay.
disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, and just in my last life. And I was thinking, because I knew a lot about him, and I was thinking, yeah, his angels probably can connect with me better than others, because I was connected with them in that life. So what about Kali?
Yeah.
Now that's powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah, the destructor, the destroyer, I think they call her. Yeah. Amazing. And everything has its place. And you're connecting with whatever guide or experience that you really need at that time. Yeah,
Right.
it's a fascinating thing. So I really do want to educate people on angels and the different types that there are. And I think it's appropriate to share on this show that I am an incarnated angel. So my sort of soul DNA is angelic, and that's one of the reasons why I channel and connect with them so easily, is that essentially I'm one of them on a soul level.
Sure. And I think everybody can relate to that very quickly.
Good.
Yeah. But I love the fact that we're talking about this in its power, in angels having power, that um, it's not so much about, of course, it's about love, but
Yeah.
but love is an umbrella of everything. But in love, we often have to use power, and we often have to come back to our power and be strong. And and so a lot of angelic talk really needs to be get your act together.
Oh, it's so true. And certain guides, Gabriel is really one of those kind of like tough love kind of angels. And as a result of that, he's kind of depicted, somewhat negatively in a lot of movies and television, for example. But yeah, a lot of times, angels are giving us messages that are hard to hear. And as a psychic, as a channel, I'm not a sugarcoater. Like I will relay what is being shared, and so sometimes I'll have people, they're like, oh, like, yes, there are positive messages, don't get me wrong, but the angels also want what's best for us. And often it can be a very clear and targeted message.
Yeah, I get that. Over the years, I've had some people say, why can't you just tell everybody that the information you're getting is that everything is perfect and wonderful and there's nothing to worry about, and just, don't think about. I mean, I do believe that we should live very Taoist in a Wu Wei kind of way that just doesn't process our fears and our worries too much because they can get in our way. But at the same time, we do have to face our shadows.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, and we will ultimately. I think what happens with the angels is they would like that for us sooner and faster, for it to be less drawn out. So ultimately, we always learn the lessons. It's just a matter of how long it takes.
Right.
And what I found with the angels is that they are really trying to help us kind of move through that in a less painful, easier way.
Well, let's talk about Joan of Arc.
Okay,
She
I love
didn't have
her.
that painless a life.
No, I think we all have lessons that we're learning, and there's what I'd say that she was learning the lesson of martyrdom and
Yes.
not to be a martyr. And there's a lot of light workers, a lot of healers, teachers right now that are learning that. And this is a message that came through for me, the angels, when I was pretty early on. And I think it's one of ones that I struggle with as well, which is one of the reasons that she's one of my main guides. That the sort of light lesson is, yes, we want to help, we want to heal others, but it's possible to do it in a way that is not self-sacrificial.
Right.
So Joan of Arc was an incredible, I mean, she had incredible light, incredible messages, but I think she was so focused on saving people that it ended up being to her detriment. And there is a way for us to help and assist others without destroying ourselves.
Right. So you and Joan are very connected.
Yeah, I think she's helping me with that. And I have many lifetimes where I've followed in that same pattern. And let's say last several lifetimes that I'm aware of, for example, I did that, but to a lesser degree. I mean, I wasn't like literally being martyred, but maybe I was emotionally being martyred or energetically being martyred, in the sense that I was exposing myself to some very intense toxic energy that was very difficult for me to handle, emotionally and spiritually. And I'm hoping in this lifetime that I'm doing it in a way that's more safe and gentle for myself, and essentially helping those who are ready to be helped at that level.
But it's so important for you and I see it in so much of what you do, that you're dealing with all of the challenges in life that everybody has, and you have that, and that also that masculine part of yourself that goes,
Yeah, I mean, we all do. And I think there's a few things to mention in regards to this journey that, power is neither light nor dark, neither is money or fame or beauty. All of these things are like magnifiers. So whatever pattern that you're in, if you have power, it just makes it stronger. If you have money, it just makes it stronger. And so when we're dealing at these higher levels, so I was clear from a very early age, actually, that one of my missions was to reach a lot of people. Like I always felt like I was going to be a visible public figure, even as a girl. And growing up in the family that I did, it was definitely, and just society in general, it was like, who are you? That's so weird. Like, why would you think that? But I just had this deep knowing that that was a part of what I was to do. And yes, I can heal and teach and reach more people that way, but it also means that I have to be more aware of any kind of openings from the dark or unhealthy patterns, because those then get magnified. And so that's why you see a lot of celebrities that are, they end up kind of self-imploding with addiction, for example. It's a coping mechanism. It's overwhelming, that amount of power. Or people that win the lottery and suddenly they're, homeless and drug addicted because that amount of magnifying power of money kind of is too much to handle. And
right,
so whenever you're seeking anything that is increasing your power, it can be a double-edged sword, and it can be great. You can also use a lot of money to heal, to teach, and to do great things, philanthropy, etc. But you have to really do soul searching within yourself to address anything that's going on inside.
but I think part of your image is power, because you do so much.
Yes,
You're out in
it's
the
in my
world.
name.
Yeah, right. That's right. And so I wasn't thinking that. I'm glad you brought
Yeah.
it up. Laura Powers, yes. And I that fits so well. But what I'm getting at is that
Hmm.
because your image is so strong, that people who are troubled by their own strength
Ah.
can find you and be helped by
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, well, that is definitely what I feel like part of what I'm here to teach is that we all have our own power, not to be scared of it. That when things come up that are scary, to deal with them and learn lessons, and that we can be safe. So, for example, like what I was talking about, a lot of people they've had past lives where they have had bad experiences with either, power or money or visibility, and they have then kind of shrunk backwards into themselves instead of learning, oh, wow, I was in some unhealthy patterns that I needed to address. For example, let's say they were visible, and then they were persecuted and kind of torn down and suffered. So rather than not be visible, the lessons are, okay, what is it that I'm doing in that visibility that's not appropriate? Who am I surrounding myself? This is a really common one. Who am I surrounding myself with is not supportive of me in my power, and is going to try to destroy me. And then once you have healthier boundaries with those, then you are more safe and protected.
Right. And one thing about being intuitive is that you don't have to know anything, and yet you do know so much, because the universe supplies you with all that you don't know. And so when you're working with people, you understand the nature of, you're a good medium for the universe to work with, because
Yeah,
you can understand what they're trying to say to help people.
absolutely. And I think you and I are similar in the sense of we're really striving to help others connect with their own ability and to
Right.
connect in for themselves. And so though I do readings, but I teach classes, and I'm teaching in every way I can, because their own intuition, their own ability to connect. And then we all have this. You might not be like very strong clairvoyant the way that I am in terms of seeing things, but everyone has their own abilities, and can connect and receive guidance and information for themselves.
Right. And that's another thing, is you can help people identify who they truly are, what their strengths are, and where they're
Yeah.
from, and in the universe, and
Yeah. I
all
love to
kinds
do
of
that.
things that people don't get from others. They can get it from you.
Hmm.
And so you're very busy. We're getting near the end of the show. you're somebody who travels a lot, and you have so many projects you're working on. You're working on screenplays, your
Mhm.
books. Uh, it goes on and on. How many areas you cover? Because as you said, you always have to be busy.
Yeah, I thrive on learning and expressing. Um, there's a birthday book, and on each day it tells you a sort of phrase, and mine is the day of prolific expression, and that always really resonates. If I'm not expressing, if I'm not creating, I can't. It's like I can't not do it. Um, and I think that everything that I do is on some level designed to teach and to share. So like even though I'm doing screenwriting, some of it is to teach. Like I'm working on a TV pilot that's about a closeted psychic. So it's a entertainment, dark comedy, but about the psychic world and how it is to not acknowledge it. And one of the reasons I'm prolific too is because so much of what I do is channeled. So it's kind of like having a team of
Exactly.
writers or whatever in
Yeah,
my
it's
head. And so
amazing.
when I write, I mean, I write very quickly compared to a lot of people because it's like either if I'm writing fiction, I'll write down, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to address this plot point. And then it's just given to me.
Right.
Or if I'm literally channeling, it's just like literally, I can write so fast.
It's a multidimensional function.
Yeah. It's like and I think we all have access to this instead of trying to do something by ourselves. Yeah. What if we have a whole group of, beings helping us with this? It obviously is going to go a lot faster and more
Right.
smoothly.
That's wonderful. So people can find you at where? Laura Powers dot what?
Yeah, so my psychic and healing work and teaching work in that area is healingpowers.net. So that's the name of my company, Healing Powers. And then for the sort of more creative, artistic stuff, modeling, acting, directing, producing, etc., and writing, that's on laurapowers.net.
Oh, okay. So healingpowers.net or lauropowers.net.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Laura, for being on.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure.
And this is Peter Roth, your host of Energy Stew at PRN.FM. I can be reached at Peter at HeartRiver, HEART river.org. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks so much for listening.